Recently, I've been making my way through the Watch Dogs series as I prepare to dive into Watch Dogs Legion. So I thought it would be worth a review of this 2016 adventure to see whether it still stands up in the modern day. It's worth noting before we begin that you don't need to play Watch Dogs 2 to understand Watch Dogs Legion, nor do you need to play Watch Dogs 1 to understand 2. Neither are direct sequels, but there will be small nods to previous titles in each game, but you won't be left confused if you skip a game. As always, this review will contain no spoilers and all subtitles are blurred to ensure that. This is Watch Dogs 2. Should I still buy it? The story, the most important place to start in my opinion. Watch Dogs focuses on a group of hackers known as DedSec. I've always believed that DedSec are based on the real-life hacker group Anonymous, using their skills and platform to fight injustice and government corruption. Specifically, this game focuses on a DedSec group operating in San Francisco as they attempt to bring down a company called Bloom, who are exploiting and manipulating the people of San Francisco through technology. To be honest, my worry when I was launched into the game was that it would feel a bit repetitive. Think back to some of the weaker Assassin's Creed games, but I was pleasantly surprised. The story did take me down some roads which I wasn't expecting, and overall it added a lot of depth to a pretty simple concept of a story. However, it wasn't perfect. I'll cover this more in the character section of the review, but I felt a bit detached from our protagonist, Marcus, and indeed the supporting characters, which dampened the impact of personal elements of the game. There is also a certain emotional moment in the story relatively early on in the game, and it was just really badly handled. It needed so much more emotion and emphasis, but instead kind of glossed over it like you just found a new collectible item. Ultimately, how good an ending is can really summarize how good a game is, and despite there being twists and turns in the narrative and me being genuinely surprised at points, the ending was very predictable. If you start playing this game, write down your prediction for how it will end, and I can guarantee it will be pretty spot on. That said, can I think of a better way to end it? No, probably not, but I'm not a video game developer. I wish I were, but instead I sit around in my pants eating pot noodles and reviewing games on a mildly successful YouTube channel. But hey, at least my girlfriend loves me. I think. I love those games that end and make you sit back in your chair and just try and digest what has just happened. This game didn't do that, but it was still a fairly fun ride. Score is a respectable 7. Setting. As mentioned, this game is set in San Francisco. Now, firstly, I've never been there, so I can't comment on the accuracy of the game's depiction, but what I can say is that it was really fun to explore, from the beaches to the Silicon Valley region, and of course, Alcatraz Island. There's plenty to distract you from the occasional repetitive nature of missions. The weather system seems to be pretty good and dynamic, and there's plenty of NPCs to explore. This is an area which Watch Dogs is renowned for. By using your hacking skills, you can get some background information on passers-by, as well as hijacking their cars, planting police evidence, and calling a local gang to terminate them. It's a lot of fun to fuck around with NPCs. There's a very loose interaction system. You can greet, insult, flirt, mock, and dance with unsuspecting NPCs. Although fun, the responses seem pretty undynamic. Occasionally, insulting someone will lead to a fist fight, but ultimately, you're pretty much ignored. However, if you do find yourself a little bit bored during the game, something I really recommend doing is exploring the world and just trying to take random pictures or selfies with NPCs. Some will naturally get annoyed and try and fight you for taking photos of them, whereas others will hilariously strike a pose. Naturally, don't try this outside of the game. I did it on my street and, well, it didn't go very well.
Under arrest. Look, I'm under what?
Finally, a sightseeing app on your phone called Scout X can place waypoints to interesting and photo-worthy sites around the world, which, as well as being generally cool to check out, can also provide you with XP and a boost in DedSec followers. Overall, I enjoyed this small but detailed world. 8. Characters. Now I've pre-mentioned some issues within this area, so I'll try and elaborate on those. Firstly, Marcus is our playable character. He's a guy who I'd love to tell you about, but in truth, I don't know a great deal. You're kind of just presented with him right at the very start of the game and given a small bit of background through dialogue of the tutorial mission, and from that point, you don't really learn much more. I will credit Ubisoft, as Marcus's character development throughout the game was interesting and his story arc worked, but ultimately I wasn't attached enough to him from the beginning to really get the effect of that story arc. Some games set you up with a detailed backstory at the very start, so you feel like you've known your character for years. Others allow you to discover more about your character as you go, a la Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption. This kind of does neither. Supporting characters, which are your fellow DedSec members, are too businesslike, and what I mean by that is that your only interaction with them is during work hours. These guys are supposed to be your friends and your buddies, and despite one or two cutscenes of the gang enjoying a few drinks, you don't feel like friends. They also could have been fleshed out more too, much like Marcus, so that we feel closer to them. The villain, whom I won't reveal for spoilers, but due to the technological world and nature of Watch Dogs, is difficult to review because they're not really in the game that much. Instead, they're pulling the strings from their company and via technology. Overall, the characters were fine and they all developed during the game, but they just needed more to connect me. 6. Gameplay. If you've never played a Watch Dogs game, the gameplay is going to feel very unique. I think seasoned gamers will still be able to sense that trademark Ubisoft vibe that is associated with Assassin's Creed and other titles, but that's not a criticism, it's their style and, well, it works. The stealth elements of the game are fun and it presents you with the opportunity to create your hacker style. You are presented with 3 styles and each are able to be enhanced via the skill tree. They are Ghost, Trickster and Aggressor. The Ghost will favour being unseen and relying on stealth elements. The Aggressor will favour guns, explosions and carnage, whereas the Trickster will aim to distract people in order to complete their objectives unnoticed. It certainly feels like Ubisoft present the Trickster path as the canon choice in this game, but it's open to the player's preference. For me, I tried to avoid the Aggressor route, only drawing a gun if I absolutely had to. These guys are hackers, they're not killers, and it didn't feel right gunning people down. God, I'm such a nice bloke. That said, I did knock a lot of people out, provide them with electric shocks and, well, fleece their bank accounts. Driving mechanics are fine, if anything, a bit difficult to handle, but no journey will be boring due to the ability to hack your surroundings. Stuck at a red light? Don't worry, you can change the colour of the light at a click of a button because, as we all know, us gamers always abide by the traffic light system in video games. There's no dialogue options or choices to make in the game, but there is an emote wheel which can be used to interact with NPCs, as mentioned previously. Clothing can be found and purchased around the world, and paint jobs can be applied to purchased cars and guns, but that's pretty much where the customization ends. It would have been nice to change Marcus's hairstyle, maybe add some tattoos, minor details, but one of those things that I personally enjoy from a game. Fast travel exists and is very easy to use, and you don't need to unlock fast travel locations. Once past the intro of the game, you can travel straight to Alcatraz, should you wish to. Overall, it was fresh, fun, and didn't grow old. Some of the missions can be quite similar in nature and objective, but the different approaches you can take to complete each mission kept it engaging. 8. Visuals. So this game isn't brand new, so its engine isn't anywhere near as impressive as Watch Dogs Legion or any of today's games, but 2016 isn't that long ago, and I'd say this looks more post-2016. Without knowing, I don't think you'd notice this game wasn't released today. The graphics are strong and the acting and face animations work well. NPCs sometimes lack detail, but let's be honest, we could probably say that about the majority of video games. With the hacking nature of the game, a lot of the visuals focus on technology, seeing inside a server, accessing security cameras, and hacking into people's home computers. They work, they look good, and are visually immersive. The city looks good, slick and full of vibrant colours, and you could easily confuse this game for a slightly cleaner and mod-enhanced GTA 5 at certain points. I'm not someone who is too bothered about visuals. I'll buy games on the merit of its story and gameplay, but if you are concerned about picking up a slightly older game because of the visuals, then don't worry, this game does not feel out of place. 8. Bugs. Often, if this category is short, it's a good thing, and it is. Throughout the game, I cannot remember a single bug, gameplay glitch, or frame rate drop. It is squeaky clean. 10. Length. Well, the main story of this game should take you around 20 hours to complete. At least that's what most gaming polls suggest, and I would say that's pretty accurate. There are a decent amount of side quests and collectible type missions to do, so that and the ScoutX photo finder alone can eat up hours of the game. Plus, the game features an app called Driver SF, which is the in-game equivalent of Uber, where you can pick people up and taxi them around the city, leading to some unique dialogue and occasional unique ways to drive. Overall, with all the extras and collectibles, it's closer to 30 hours. So, a decent length. But does it justify it? Yes. The game ended and it felt about right. I wasn't thinking, thank God that's over, nor was I thinking, wait, is that it? It just felt complete. 9. Fun. This game does provide a lot of fun. It's an engaging story and relatively unique mission structure. As I mentioned before, if you're in a bit of a big gaming session, the story missions might start to become a bit stale, but the game provides you with enough around the world to take a break. One of the best things to do is just fucking around with the NPCs with your hacking skills. I like to cause their cars to crash into each other and then watch some petite woman climb out of her pink convertible and go up to a big hairy trucker and punch him in the face. Honestly, the women in this game are fearless. 9. Replayability. Would you play this game again? Maybe. There's certainly no difference on each play. Sure, you can change your hacking style and how you approach missions, but ultimately the story will play out the same way. Also, if this were the newest Watch Dogs, I'd say, yeah, you'll probably play this whenever you feel the urge to hack a computer, but with Legion in the world and regarded by many as a superior game, Watch Dogs 2 will likely collect dust on the shelf, which is a shame because it is a good game, but with the series evolving and the story being good but not a must come back and experience again story, it's not high on my play again list. 5. Value. This of course is subjective as it depends on the current price of the game. A PlayStation Store offer recently saw this game listed at £10/$13, saving yourself a hefty 80% of its retail price. It's also listed on Amazon right now at £15/$20, so there's your ballpark, and at that price, if you haven't played it, I would say go for it. You definitely get bang for your buck. But what I would not do is pay full market value, which is around £50/$70, which it will likely be listed at again soon. When an item drops by 80% like it did recently, it will probably do that on a regular basis, so just wait for the deal. 7. So there we go, the scores on the doors for Watch Dogs 2. This game is 5 years old at the time of recording and it still feels pretty fresh. So to answer the question, should I still buy it in the modern day? Yes, absolutely. I'm diving into Legion as I speak, so I'll have a review of that on my channel very soon, plus a story recap from this game as well if you want to freshen up on the story before you dive into Legion. For more videos just like this, then please hit subscribe.